What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 15:16 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Germany. So, yesterday, the Russian media released a recording of a recent conversation that they intercepted between senior German Air Force officials and the German Air Force commander Ingo Gerhards, where they discussed giving Taurus missiles to Ukraine and how to help the Ukrainians destroy the Crimean bridge with the Taurus missiles. And today, the German Ministry of Defense and the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have now confirmed that this audio recording is real and that the meeting did take place as recorded. Okay, so we now know that this is 100% legit. The German Ministry of Defense and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have confirmed today that this was legit. So this is very, very serious, guys. The Russians are not going to be happy about this, okay? And you can actually find the recording on social media. Maybe I'll go over it with you guys in a live stream sometime in the coming days. It's very long. It's like 40 minutes long. There's also a transcript that's out there. But essentially, the German Air Force commander and senior German officials were talking over WebEx about how they could destroy the Crimean bridge with the Taurus missiles and how to give the Taurus missiles to Ukraine. So this is very, very serious, guys. And yesterday, Russia tested one of their nuclear missiles, and this was a day after Putin gave his State of the Nation speech, which he gives every single year. It's very similar to like a State of the Union speech here in the US. And earlier in the week on Monday, Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, hosted a meeting in Paris of all NATO leaders to discuss sending troops into Ukraine, NATO troops. And now we have confirmation that French special forces are going to be going to Ukraine. And we also have confirmation that Canadian troops are going to be going to Ukraine in non-combat roles. So this is how it all starts. Okay, it starts with special forces and advisors. Okay, and then eventually it turns into regular forces and all-out war. Okay, so things are really escalating between Russia and NATO. And there's talk of this huge counterattack that Russia is planning this coming summer. Okay, so NATO is concerned that Russia is going to go in and take big swaths of territory from Ukraine, and all of that equipment and billions of dollars in aid is basically going to be for nothing if that happens. So that's why NATO is now considering sending troops there to help the Ukrainians. Okay, now the Ukrainians are going to be receiving F-16s in June, several dozen F-16s, so that might make some difference. We currently have 3 nuclear war command and control planes in the air, which is pretty elevated for a Saturday afternoon. And this entire week, we had a lot of nuclear war planes in the air over the United States. We had half a dozen planes in the air almost every single day. Okay. And just to give you a comparison, before the Ukraine war started, you would be lucky to see just one of these in the air every second day, every third day. Now we're seeing 4, 5, 6, 7 nuclear war command and control planes in the air every single day. Also, presidential doomsday planes in the air every single day. So our nuclear forces are on high alert. So you can see one of these planes is over Arkansas right now, over the Ozarks. One of them is over the Gulf of Mexico, and one of them is over the Rockies in California and Nevada. Okay. So that's a lot of activity for a Saturday, but things are really escalating between Russia and NATO. Okay, it is 100% true that these German Air Force officials were discussing how to destroy the Crimean bridge with Taurus missiles. We also have some breaking news coming in from Alaska. Yesterday, it was reported that a balloon was found off the coast of Alaska by fishermen, and apparently they're going to be bringing this balloon to the FBI once they get back to port for analysis, and the FBI believes that it is foreign in origin. And early this morning, there was some type of an incident at a Walmart in Michigan. Multiple people were injured after a woman crashed her car into a Walmart. So I don't know if that's some type of terror attack or what. The British tanker ship that was hit by the Houthis about 2 weeks ago with missiles has now reportedly sunk to the bottom of the ocean. Okay, here we have a picture of that ship. This was the Rubimar. It was hit directly by a Houthi missile in the engine compartment. The entire crew had to evacuate, and it was spilling out fuel, and it's loaded with 40,000 tons of fertilizer. So that's going to cause an environmental catastrophe in that area. And there were multiple earthquakes reported over the last 12 hours in Iceland near the town of Grindavik. Apparently, evacuations have started, and there might be another volcanic eruption near that town. That would be the third eruption, okay? And there were multiple kabooms reported today in the skies of the Leningrad region in Russia. Leningrad is St. Petersburg. Apparently, Russian air defense was activated, and these were drones that flew all the way from Ukraine, which is over 900 kilometers away. Okay, so the Ukrainians are now reaching as far as Leningrad, St. Petersburg with their drones. That is huge news. We also had a lot of reconnaissance along the border with Moldova. And this comes after two regions in Moldova have asked Russia for protection from the Moldovan government, claiming that the Moldovan government is persecuting them. First, it was Transnistria, then it was Gagauzia. Okay, so it looks like Russia may try to do something in Moldova. That might be the next thing, or potentially the Baltics, like I've been saying. I think that Russia would probably go after the Baltics first, but I guess we'll find out soon. And German fighter jets took off from the Latvian military base Lielvardi on March the 1st to intercept Russian aircraft near the Latvian territorial waters for the first time ever. And an explosive device was found in a car that was trying to enter the Crimean Peninsula through a checkpoint in the Jankoy area. Very interesting. And NATO encrypted traffic was being broadcast late last night on various radio frequencies, meaning that there were tactical units like bombers airborne somewhere around the US or Europe. Also, there were a lot of emergency action messages back to back late last night. And this was at the same time as there were 4 nuclear war command and control planes in the air. We had unusual call signs being used like Alpha Force and Bravo Force. So a lot of unusual nuclear forces radio transmissions being reported by amateur radio enthusiasts to me. All right, emergency action messages are nuclear attack options. Okay, so there were a lot of those last night, and there were also encrypted NATO transmissions to tactical units like bombers. And I want to update you guys on those strange reconnaissance flights that were going down to the Caribbean this week. Apparently, Nikolai Patrushev visited Cuba and Nicaragua this week. So that's why we saw all those reconnaissance planes going down to the Caribbean. Now, Nikolai Patrushev is one of Putin's closest friends. He's in Putin's inner circle. Patrushev was actually the director of the KGB after Putin became prime minister. Patrushev took over his spot as the director of the KGB. Okay, many people believe that Patrushev was the guy who masterminded the 2014 invasion of Crimea with the little green men. They also believe that Patrushev pressured Putin to invade Ukraine, and that also Patrushev was responsible for false flag attacks on apartment buildings to start the Chechen war. So this guy is shady, and he visited Cuba and Nicaragua. Apparently, he pledged on Monday to help Latin American countries counter what he described as U.S. attempts to interfere in their internal affairs. He made his comments in Nicaragua, led by former Marxist guerrilla Daniel Ortega, after meeting Cuba's former leader Raul Castro in Havana. Russia's TASS state news agency quoted Patrushev as saying that Latin American countries were well aware of attempts by the United States to resort to economic and political pressure against those whose policies did not suit Washington. Latin America remains an important zone of peace, a sort of island of stability. It is important for us that more countries in the region strive towards independent policies, TASS quoted Patrushev as saying in Managua. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a discount on their 1 month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. This is a 1 month freeze-dried food supply. It has a 25-year shelf life. Normal price is $237. They've dropped it down to $177. So that's a savings of $60. And it's all packed within 2 rugged, water-resistant buckets. Free shipping is included. $177 for 1 month of food. Where are you going to find a deal like that? They also have a general store, and they're always running discounts in their general store on various prepping and survival items. They have everything from MREs, potassium iodide, to survival seeds. And to get to their general store, you got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com. And you'll see when you get there, they have everything you can imagine. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $60 off the My Patriot Supply 1 month emergency food supply. That's $180 for 1 month of food, free shipping included. The link is in the description below this video. And also check out their general store. They have everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always running various discounts there. So that's just a bunch of BS. I mean, essentially, he's going there to work out various types of military deals, intelligence deals. Maybe they're going to be setting up various intelligence and military assets in Cuba and Nicaragua, which is right in our backyard. And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said all the things about Moldova yesterday that he said about Ukraine right before Russia invaded Ukraine. He said the Moldovan regime is following in the footsteps of the Kiev one. Everything Russian is being canceled. If we were Moldova, we would take this seriously. Wow. So basically threatening Moldova, guys. Okay. The Russian foreign minister is threatening Moldova. And I wanted to update you on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. This is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. It has 6 nuclear reactors. Apparently, there was some gunfire reported in or very near the plant, according to the IAEA. That's the International Atomic Energy Agency. That's a UN agency responsible for nuclear energy monitoring. There was also a building in the nearby town of Enerhadar, less than a mile away, that had telecommunications equipment on the roof. And apparently it was hit with a drone, presumably Ukrainian. And there's still only one power line powering the plant. The IAEA expects the backup power line to come back online any day now. However, that's still much less than what they had originally. Director General Grossi said out of a total of 10 offsite power lines available before the conflict, 4 750 kilovolt and 6 330 kilovolt, only one remains operational today. Even if one backup line becomes available again, it is still far from sufficient. Europe's largest nuclear power plant has suffered 8 instances of a complete loss of offsite power in the last 18 months, forcing it to rely on emergency diesel generators. In the history of nuclear energy, this is an unprecedented situation and clearly not sustainable. I remain extremely concerned about nuclear safety and security at the plant. So, some strong words there coming from the IAEA Director General, saying that it was unprecedented for all these power interruptions to occur. Okay, 8 power interruptions over 18 months, unprecedented in nuclear energy history. And the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday that the original peace treaty that Russia offered to Ukraine in April of 2022, shortly after they started their invasion, was intended to drastically reduce Ukraine's military to such a level that Ukraine could no longer defend itself. In the draft treaty, Russia pushed for the Ukrainian military to be limited to 85,000 soldiers, 342 tanks, and 519 artillery systems, whereas Ukraine wanted the caps to be 250,000 soldiers, 800 tanks, and 1,900 artillery systems. Russia also reportedly demanded that Ukrainian missiles be limited to a range of 40 kilometers, a range that would allow Russian forces to deploy critical systems and material close to Ukraine without fear of strikes. The Wall Street Journal reported that the US, the UK, China, France, and Russia were to be guarantors of the treaty. Russia also reportedly wanted to include Belarus as a guarantor. The reported details of the draft treaty suggest that Russia intended to use the treaty to set conditions for future attacks against Ukraine, while also prompting the West to make concessions on Ukraine's sovereignty. So this is crazy, guys. They wanted Ukraine to only have 85,000 troops and 340 tanks. That's insane, guys. That is less than half the military that Poland has, or that's about the size of the militaries of one of the Baltic countries. That's very, very small. And to have missiles with a range of a max of 40 kilometers is just ridiculous. That's like 25 miles or 30 miles. That is just ridiculous. So it's no wonder why Ukraine rejected that treaty, because eventually Russia would use that treaty to invade them. And Russia has made small gains near Bakhmut and Marinka in the past 24 hours in the eastern part of Ukraine. So they're making small gains recently. This past week, they were held back near Avdiivka, right outside of Avdiivka. The Russians were trying to push further to Orlivka, and they were stopped there. But it's not looking good right now for the Ukrainians, because they ran out of equipment, ran out of ammunition. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But it looks like Russia's planning a large offensive this summer. So NATO is running out of time, and they're running out of options, and they might do something desperate to prevent Ukraine from losing large swaths of territory, like deploying NATO forces or giving Ukraine longer range missiles. In an unprecedented move, U.S. Special Forces will be permanently stationed in Taiwan. According to Taiwan's United Daily News, the American 1st Special Forces Group is deployed for a permanent training mission on the island. The 1st Special Forces Group is permanently stationed this year at 2 bases of the 101st Amphibious Reconnaissance Battalion, a Taiwanese Army Special Operations Force. Some of the U.S. troops are based on Kinmen, a group of Taiwanese-controlled islands 10 kilometers from Xiamen, China, a Chinese port city. Another group is located on the Pescadores Island off the Taiwan coast. U.S. troops positioning facilitate intelligence gathering on movements in the Taiwan Strait and on the China coast, including Chinese naval and air force bases located in Xiamen. At a military base in northern Taiwan, American troops also train the Taiwanese military in the use of its drones for Airborne Special Service Company and Elite Special Forces Unit in Taiwan. Okay, so it's not just that they're training, they're doing the training on the main island of Taiwan, but they've also deployed to Kinmen Island. And Kinmen Island is a small island controlled by Taiwan. It's literally like 2 miles off the shore of China. Okay. And so these special forces are there. And apparently they're using that island to monitor Chinese activity. Okay. And that's why China's been sending Coast Guard ships around that island like crazy, because they're paranoid now that U.S. special forces are there keeping tabs on them. And Japan is planning to build more bomb shelters for outlying islands amid growing concern over Taiwan tensions. Apparently, they're designing guidelines for bomb shelters, and they're going to be completed next month. And proposals for evacuation of residents on remote islands are also being drawn up. And officials are also identifying existing buildings on outlying islands to be modified to provide shelter and sufficient supplies for residents whose mobility may be limited. So that is huge news, guys, okay, for Japan to be building more bomb shelters, figuring out how to evacuate people on outlying islands, and figuring out how to use existing buildings for shelters on the outlying islands. So obviously something is going to happen soon if they're doing that, okay? And we had a lot of reconnaissance activity on the Korean Peninsula last night. Here we have a P-8 Poseidon sub-hunter plane operated by the U.S. that was patrolling near the border of North Korea. Here we have a U.S. reconnaissance drone that was patrolling along the North Korean border back and forth. And here we have another unknown reconnaissance plane flying along the border with North Korea. And the U.S. has successfully dropped 66 pallets of food into the Gaza Strip. Apparently, that includes 38 meals for the Palestinian population. Here's a video showing a U.S. C-130 flying over Gaza. So this is very interesting that the U.S. would take it upon themselves to drop pallets of food over Gaza. Very interesting. But that's some of the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon down below so you get notified when I post these updates. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.